Hey there, storytellers. Happy New Year. It's not really the new year, but it's been forever since we've been together. So Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Easter, St. Patrick's Day, and most importantly, Cinco de Mayo. And I will not be explaining. Well, welcome back to another episode of Storyteller Therapy, where we dive deep into the craft, business, and mentality of storytelling so you can make a big, beautiful, profitable, and sane life from it. I'm your host, Spade Robinson, the owner of Atlanta Film Project. And today we're going to be talking about planning for a successful life for your independent film. This episode is all about setting priorities so you make the best and appropriate decisions for your life. So let's get into it. I see the main priorities for the life of a film as these. 1, revenue. 2, critical recognition or acclaim. 3, social change. And 4, eyeballs, or reaching the widest audience possible. So the first thing you need to understand is that none of this matters without compelling script and then film. If you've been listening to me for a while or taken any of my courses, you know that it all starts with a compelling version of the story. Otherwise, you've cut off your opportunities for some, most, or maybe all of these priorities because the project just isn't strong enough. And I talk about this ad nauseum because as someone who does a lot of work on the other side, on the reviewing side, on the choosing filmmakers or writers for a contest, a competition, a production company, whatever client I'm working for, there's a lot of frustration of not moving forward or getting into any of those opportunities, which I admit are all very competitive. But the truth is that, and you've heard me say this before, 80% of everything that I watch is terrible. So if you're not moving forward at all, you found like no momentum, then I would say let's take a step back and look at the quality of the work. That's just the math of it. So you don't want to cut yourself off from any of the priorities, depending on what you want to do. If you're still in the development phase of your film, which is when you should be thinking about the priorities for your film and the kind of life you want it to have, it's the best time to take your story through the development process with Script from Scratch. It's a screenwriting workbook that I wrote that takes you literally from an idea to an extremely detailed outline while doing all of the development work, character development work, world building, story mythology, getting over your personal blocks, all of it. And then by the end, you're at the front door of your script and you've made every single creative decision and checked it more than once. I make sure of it. So it's impossible to have writer's block after that. It's impossible to write one-dimensional characters after that or have lopsided structure after that because it painstakingly takes you through all these creative decisions. All you have to do now is fill out the scenes and final draft and finish. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And it's not just because I wrote it. It's because the development process can be stressful or it's something that people skip over and then the script is not the best. So I usually teach a screenwriting class called Script from Scratch, but the workbook is something you can do on your own at your own pace to elevate your screenwriting every single time. It's like clockwork. It's a system and it works. It takes all the guesswork and anxiety out of it, which if you're anything like me, that is more than half the battle. So it's available on Amazon for the hard copy. And I'll have the link in the show notes, or you could just search Script from Scratch screenwriting workbook. Or if you want to download it, the digital version is available on atlantafilmproject.com. Most writers opt for the hard copy so you can write on it and just get your hands dirty with it that way on Amazon. But if you want the digital version so you can save as and then use it again and again and again, you'll want the digital version. Both are $39, so just depends on what your needs are, and both will elevate your writing game dramatically. So let's get into it. The 4 main priorities for your film usually fall into these 4 categories. Revenue, that is generating income from your film through various distribution channels, merchandising, or other monetization strategies. Critical recognition or acclaim, that is achieving acclaim from critics, winning awards, and gaining notoriety, press, or respect in the film industry. Then there's social change. That's using your film as a platform to highlight important issues and drive societal impact. And then eyeballs, reaching a large audience and maximizing viewership to build a fan base, and basically to create visibility for you as a filmmaker, or create visibility for the film. You want as many people to see it as possible. What you need to do is put them in order before you shoot your film, ideally, and your creative team should be on the same page. So for the film that I'm working on now, I decided on my film's priorities before I even wrote it. And knowing what kind of business I wanted it to do helps me to create and decide the genre and the approach I wanted in the development process. That's why I wrote the film I wrote, because I did that work ahead of time. And then when I brought on a producer, we talked about it together and got on the same page, and then planned the film strategy based on those priorities. So it's how we make decisions now. That's the whole reason why you're doing this priority list, and why you should know what your priorities are and be very clear on them, because that's what helps you to make the decisions you're going to make. So when it comes to the kind of financing that we're approaching, the kind of talent we're attaching, who we're partnering with and why, everything stems from this priority list. It's the compass for your movie and the compass for your team. Whenever you are having your production meetings, your development meetings, all of that, and people are coming to you asking you questions, and you're in charge, and you have to decide, okay, what's my answer to this question? It's based on your list of priorities. It's based on your list of priorities. And the more your team knows the list of priorities, everybody's on the same page, the more they can make decisions without you and correct decisions without you. Okay, so let's jump in. Coming in hot first with revenue. This is all about making money for your film. Why would you choose revenue as a top priority? Well, for starters, it may just be what you want or need at this point in your career. All these decisions are based on where you are at the point in your career that you currently are. It's also important, if you have investors, you want to pay them back and build a reputation for delivering profitable films. Now, the benefit of prioritizing revenue is more than just actual cash money. The trade of films, the buying and selling of the product of a film's IP, a time slot on television, etc., all of that, these are products, okay? You have to think, if you're going to be savvy in the business of film, you have to think of films as products. And it's like any other business in that the higher the profit margin, the better. So when you're able to demonstrate that you understand this and the films you make profit, the opportunities for you are more plentiful because your films are doing good business, and everybody wants to do good business, right? So how do you focus on revenue? The biggest thing about revenue really comes from distribution platforms or your distribution strategy. Of course, you're planning that at the very beginning, but you're wanting to choose distribution wisely. So you're going to prioritize TVOD, transactional video on demand. That is your iTunes and places where you get paid when people buy or rent your movie. AVOD, so that's advertising video on demand. That's with companies that do revenue sharing. So it doesn't cost anything for the audience to watch it, but the company, the distribution platform, is getting revenue from advertising, and because they're sharing revenue, that is how you're getting paid. I do a really detailed breakdown of distribution overall. All the VODs, AVOD, TVOD, SVOD, all the VODs, all the distribution windows, and that is on my TikTok. I do a distribution deep dive on my TikTok, so check that out if you just want more information on distribution in general. But you also want to think, for revenue, you also want to think outside the box of educational distribution, which is money that a lot of filmmakers leave on the table, and leveraging non-traditional marketing, things like social media. The most efficient way, honestly, to maximize revenue is to package your film. This is like the nitty-gritty. This is like what it boils down to. After all the fluff, this is what it boils down to. The most efficient way to maximize revenue is to package your film to be able to sell it for more than you paid to make it. I know that sounds really simple, but that's really what it boils down to, keeping the cost low. Your package is the script, the director, the DP, the talent that's attached, all of that. That's the package of your movie. The package is the value of your movie going into the marketplace. If you want me to do an episode about marketplace, I'm happy to do it. So the marketplace is the selling of your movie. Okay. and you want to predict what kind of business your movie is going to do in the marketplace, and then decide based off of that how much then you want to spend on the movie. Then you take your budget and utilize things like grants, tax incentives, and co-productions to bring down the cost of actual cash spent during production. So the budget could be $2 million, but you will spend less than $2 million in cash by utilizing things like grants, tax incentives, and stuff like that. So then when you sell your movie, you're getting more revenue. I know that's like really simple, and technically it ends up becoming more complicated making all those deals happen, but that's the short and long of it. So an example of something like this, you want to think the Blair Witch Project, it was made on a shoestring budget, and then due to clever marketing and wide distribution, traditional distribution, it became a massive hit, bring in a lot of money. So if revenue is at the tippy top, out of all the things, revenue is at the top, that's what you want to focus on. Creating a package that is the elements that make up your movie, producing it for less, significantly less than you can predict that will make in the marketplace. And if you want to talk more about marketplace, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know. The next priority is critical recognition. So this is about gaining critical acclaim for your movie, winning awards, getting press, all of that. Why is this important? Well, critical acclaim can establish you as a filmmaker and open new doors to new opportunities. Success at festivals can lead to distribution deals and wider exposure, articles being written about you in your film, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, critical acclaim films have a lasting impact, which is really important. I learned this phrase at Sundance, and I will never forget it. We always used to talk about how well-made films reach wider audiences. So, of course, you want to start there. You can't make a good film with a bad script. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is. It's not going to be a great film. You have to start with a great script. So to achieve this, you want to focus on film festivals, prestigious film festivals that are going to have journalists there and critics there who can write about your movie. A lot of times filmmakers think, oh, I got into 20 festivals. That's fine, depending on your strategy. But if critical acclaim is what you want, you need to start at the script level, making sure that your script can be critically recognizable. And then you go into production on that script. It doesn't have to be top tier festivals per se, but it does have to be festivals where there's going to be enough journalists, press, articles written, things that will create attention and buzz around your movie. So it's a combination of having access to people who are going to write about your film and critically acclaim your film, and that has to be met with your film being appropriate for that kind of critical acclaim, which starts on the page. So you want to submit to prestigious film festivals. You want to invest in high production value and compelling storytelling. And you want to engage with critics. You want to network with journalists, critics. A lot of times you go to festivals, depending on your priority, perhaps you should not be networking necessarily, spending all of your time networking with other filmmakers or executives, depending on what your priorities are. You should be seeking out relationships and connecting with critics, film journalists, people who write about film so they know who you are. You want to consider a film like Moonlight. This film won the Academy Award for Best Picture. It's obviously significantly boosted Barry Jenkins' career and opened up opportunities for him, but it was based off of a compelling story. The IP was already there. The script was amazing. You know what I'm saying? Which can be compared to his first film, Medicine for Melancholy, which was less known, but was made for significantly less money and made a lot of money being distributed independently, which is a different priority. So you see how that works? Medicine for Melancholy was made for less money. A lot less people know about it, but it made a lot of money. So when revenue is a priority, then you operate differently. Something like Moonlight was built for critical acclaim and to push Barry Jenkins' career forward. And so the package was different. The script was an IP that was already successful. and obviously very well written. So that's how you compare those two, and that's how you strategize based off of your priorities. Now let's move on to social change. This is about using your film to highlight important issues in the social landscape, political landscape, whatever landscape you're interested in. A lot of filmmakers from the documentary world prioritize social change above revenue and critical acclaim. A lot of times, if they're done well, you get both, particularly critical acclaim. But fiction films have been known to prioritize or top prioritize social change. So why would you choose this? Well, films have the power to educate. They inspire, they mobilize audiences, and they do create social change, whether it's awareness or actual policy being changed. There's a million different ways that films can create social change, and creating a film that influences social change can leave a lasting legacy and fulfill a deeper purpose in your career and your life. I think about this even from a selfish point of view. Sometimes your mental health is just served so well by creating something that has a deeper purpose or a deeper meaning. If you're at the point in your career where you can prioritize this, it's something to look into as a top priority. It also helps to build strong community around your film's message. Community is deeply important. Part of, the reason for this podcast is to go beyond just really clinical advice and talk about how do you survive as a storyteller. This life is really hard. And how do you make room for being a sane person while trying to pursue this work? Creating a film and prioritizing potential of its social change is a wonderful way to develop that feeling in you as a filmmaker, as a writer, as a director, that you're doing something meaningful with your life and your work. So this is how you go about that. You collaborate with NGOs, nonprofits, and advocacy groups to partner on your film with screenings, getting the messaging out. You do screenings and panels, so you host events to engage your audience and spark discussions. You may bring in experts. You may be the expert since you made the film. Educational distribution is a great way to do this because a lot of times educational distribution can also come along with doing a talk series, going on tour, which can bring revenue to you as a filmmaker. But it can also open discussions, and whereas being a filmmaker is sometimes such a solitary process, getting out there in the community, having conversations around the topic of your film just feeds your soul in a particular way. And then grassroots campaigns, so using social media and grassroots marketing to build that community around your film and get the message out there. And it can be Truth by Al Gore. Of course, that one made it all the way to the Academy Awards. But the social impact was really widespread and well done. And it did spark global conversations and actions. That's what you're looking for, the actions. I've seen a lot of filmmakers do congressional screenings or screenings on military base, screenings on Capitol Hill, speak directly to decision makers with their film, which can be very powerful. And the last one is eyeballs. So finally, let's talk about attracting a large audience, or as I like to say, getting eyeballs. This priority is all about maximizing viewership to build a fan base and increase visibility for your movie or you as a filmmaker, which is, I think, potentially more important. So why focus on this? Reaching a wide audience can elevate your profile as a filmmaker. Of course, that can lead to more opportunities and higher demand from your work, but it's coming from the audience side as opposed to you pushing it. So building a large, loyal audience ensures support for future projects. And that's what a lot of distributors, production companies may want to know about your work or about you and what you come along with. So to achieve this, you can look at viral marketing, creating shareable content and collaborating with influencers, wide distribution that's aiming for platforms with large user bases like YouTube and Facebook. That's different. Maybe AVOD or SVOD or something you may do to exchange money, because this is about getting more eyeballs on your film, right? And so something that may not bring in the revenue or may not bring in the critical acclaim, but will bring in tons of people and maybe your approach if this is your priority. And then you want to do engagement like Q&A, share behind the scenes, anything you can do that will campaign your movie and connect the community between you and your project and your work and your point of view. So take an example like Tangerine is an independent film, is shot entirely on the iPhone. The fact that this film used its unique production story to generate buzz is how it was able to reach a wide audience. People like, they shot it on an iPhone, and it ended up being an amazing film as well. And it had a huge social media presence because of that, okay? So those are the 4 main priorities, but I want to introduce you to a bonus priority that I call calling card. And it's not necessarily for features. A lot of people use short films to do it, but features can do this as well. It's about showcasing your up-to-date skills to demonstrate your capabilities right now, today, to investors, collaborators, whoever. But sometimes when you've been making films for a while, you may have a string of shorts, and you may have films that you made, and it's been like 4 years, 5 years, 7 years since you made your last film. But you've learned so much now. You've matured as a person. You've matured as a storyteller. And where you may have had some success, or you may have had a few festival runs or directed a few commercials, whatever your past successes have brought you to, you may decide, okay, I need a way to show what I can do now. That's what I call calling card. You would choose that, obviously, for career advancement, to show that you are on the cutting edge of filmmaking techniques and technologies, what's happening right now. And then just personal branding, your unique style and creative vision. You want to show that to the industry. So this is how you're going to approach it. You're going to use cutting edge techniques, right? In your short or sample or feature or whatever you're making for the calling card, you want to prioritize the latest equipment, software, techniques, high quality visuals and sound, things like that. And you want to create a film that highlights your best work, I think, beyond stylistically in your ability to tell a nuanced story. If you have grown as a storyteller, you want to lean into that. And then your networking is going to be different for this priority. You may not even need to go to festivals. If you have very few industry relationships, maybe festival strategies at the beginning, but if not, and you're just sort of showcasing what you can do now and you already have contacts, you may not even need to go the festival route or the distribution route. That's why it's important to know what your priorities are, because depending on your contacts, it can be beneficial to just send this out. Have your agent or manager send it out to your contacts and do a string of meetings based off of this concept or storytelling approach. So real life examples will be films like Whiplash, which Whiplash was a festival darling, but it didn't need to do 100 festivals, right? It was a short film that showed this filmmaker's directing skills and then led to the feature version of Whiplash. Same thing with District 9. It served as a calling card leading to the development, of course, of the feature District 9. So by focusing on your calling card, you can effectively demonstrate your skills and vision. Those are the main priorities for planning the successful life for your film. Most filmmakers want a mix of these goals, and I totally understand that, but it's all about prioritizing. For instance, achieving critical acclaim can boost your visibility, which in turn can lead to higher revenue. So plan your strategy in phases, focusing on one primary goal per film at the top, and then you can put them in order based on what's important. But you have to know the top one, and that one always wins when it comes to your decision making. And it's important that you put them in order according to what's important at this time in your career. I cannot stress that enough. This time in your career, today, what should be your priority? And then you don't want to hoard that information. You want to discuss it with your team so you're all on the same page. This is what causes a lot of strife between filmmakers and causes producers to break up and all of that, because there wasn't a discussion on what's the priority, and we haven't got on the same page of what's the most important thing for this movie. Just like with all relationships, communication is key. And if you're going to put your film baby out into the world, then the parents need to know what kind of life they want it to have. Please leave a 5-star review for this episode and tell me what your film's priority is, even if it's not born yet. That's the time to decide, the best time to decide. And if you want to work one-on-one with me, there are multiple options on AtlanticFilmProject.com. And if you want to work at your own pace to create your most compelling screenplay, make sure to get the Script from Scratch workbook either on AtlanticFilmProject.com for the digital version. It's also available on TikTok Shop, or the hard copy on Amazon. And all the links will be below in the show notes, along with the list of priorities, so you can review them, take notes, and decide for you what's the priority for your movie. Okay. See you next week.